Now, back in the 1700s, the family that once lived in this magnificent Tudor manor house, but had long since moved out, decided to give it a new lease of life and reinvent it as their ancestral show home. But who were they and where are we? Well, join me in just a moment and I'll tell you. Today's property search has fairy tale beginnings.
Goodness gracious. This is something that's always been in picture books, in storybooks.
But will we find our home hunters a happy ever after?
No.
My goodness. My goodness.
Well, today we are in Cornwall, and this is Cotehill House, just a stone's throw from the River Tamar. The original Tudor mansion was built by a family called the Edgcombes. However, by the 1550s, they moved out, having built a new family home just down the road. But fast forward 2 centuries, and the Edgcombes began to exploit the growing romantic appeal of this place. And it attracted some pretty high-profile visitors, amongst them George III and his wife, Queen Charlotte. Since 1947, it's been in the care of the National Trust. Later on in the show, I'll be back here learning more about the Cotehill story, also understanding how they maintain not just the architecture, but also its rather magical atmosphere. Now, when it comes to property here in Cornwall, no surprise that the coast is king. Hotspots like Rock, Foy and Padstow can see properties running into the millions, but for all that, the average price of a detached home here is surprisingly affordable at £274,000. That's £13,000 below the national average figure. But what about today's buyers? What's attracted them to a life in Cornwall? Well, let's meet them and find out. Today's house hunters, Bill and Rosemary, have been married 27 years, and their paths first crossed in the late 80s on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
1987, I had this fabulous teaching post on Ascension Island, and I joined the Amateur Dramatic Society, and Bill turned up at a rehearsal. Brown legs, white shorts.
Yeah, very short shorts. Rosemary was attracted to my brown hairy legs.
Along came marriage and children, as well as decades of moving from pillar to post due to Bill's job with the RAF.
Sometimes we were 2 or 3 years in a place, but other times we moved 3 times in a year. I never really felt that we had a proper home.
Finally, Bill's military career came to an end, and he got a new job with the Metropolitan Police. The couple have settled on an estate in the commuter town of Bracknell, Berkshire, but both still yearn for greener pastures elsewhere.
The rush hour times, in the mornings it's all going on its way out to London, and in the evenings everything is returning from London.
When you look out, it's rooftops everywhere.
And everywhere is overlooking everywhere.
Yeah.
We're looking for a bit of solitude rather than there's another set of screaming children.
We're beyond estate living. We just want a little bit of peace and quiet, own boundaries, and my wish is for a 5-bar gate at the end of a drive.
To find that solitude and serenity, Rosemary, who was born and raised in the southwest, feels there's only one place she could ever truly call home.
My grandparents were from Cornwall. I just love the moorland, I love mossy stones, I love dry stone walls. To me, that is home, and that's where I grew up, and that's where I want to be.
I think we always realised that Cornwall has been the goal.
Whilst Rosemary is ready to make the move now, at a decade her junior, 54-year-old Bill is a few years away from retirement. The plan is for Rosemary to move full-time and Bill to join her on his days off between shifts until he can organise a more permanent relocation.
I am older than Bill, and this is it. I have to go now. I can't wait any longer, and I'm making the move.
I still have a few working years left to make sure that we're funding the move.
I would like a garden where I can grow my own vegetables and I can sit in the sunshine and read a book. I've led such a busy, hectic life, and I want to have a bit of calm around me. I just want time now to just watch the seasons go by.
I used to run marathons and half marathons, and I'm trying to get back into that frame of mind. Very much like the idea of running in clean air rather than having to dodge the cars.
But most of all, it's all about finally getting the life they've strived for all these years.
It's about time that Rosemary was given the opportunity to go back to where she wants to live, and, you know, and wherever Rosemary is, I want to be.
Having a place in the country, that's what I want.
In order to maximise their chance of finding that dream Cornish home, Rosemary and Bill are open to living anywhere in the county. But before I show them some of the choices on offer, we're meeting on the Cornish coast to discuss the details.
Thought I'd find you enjoying this. Well, here we are overlooking the beaches around Newquay on a beautiful day, and all of Cornwall at our disposal to find you a new home. Rosemary, I think you are leading the charge to come back to Cornwall. Bill, you're still working in London.
That's right, yes.
What's it going to take to persuade you to come down and set up shop in Cornwall?
The right property and, of course, the right price will always encourage me to come down this way.
Give us an idea of the sort of property that would really appeal.
I would really like something within my own boundaries, something with a bit of a drive, with a 5-bar gate at the end of it, possibly. That's been my dream. Somewhere quiet, somewhere pretty, somewhere to look at the green grass.
Do you have any kind of views on what sort of property you would entertain looking at?
2 to 3 bedrooms, ideally. We're not looking for a massive kitchen, something with 2 reception rooms so that we can pursue our own interests and hobbies, and maybe a conservatory or somewhere where we've got the potential to actually put a conservatory.
Now, many buyers come here looking for these classic sea views, but actually, you're not that bothered, are you?
We don't need to live by the coast. We know that when you live in Cornwall, short drive away, you'll reach the coast anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, and you've got 2 coasts to choose from, let's face it. Yeah.
Yes. So, no, somewhere inland where we can see green valleys, green hills, and pretty garden outside the back door.
So that means that the property market here is wide open. We can go inland, and we may yet tease you with a bit of coast, who knows. But how much do you want to spend? Because Cornwall does have its hotspots, let's be honest.
The money that will be available for this project will be up to £450,000.
Up to £450,000. I appreciate you probably want to spend a little bit less if possible.
Preferably.
But if we do get it right, Bill, it may persuade you to leave London a little sooner than you were perhaps planning on and come down here and set up life in Cornwall.
It could very much do so.
Well, look, the weather is with us. We've got 3, I think, really interesting properties to show you.
Great, can't wait.
Well, let's get going. Come on.
Thank you.
Bill and Rosemary have up to £450,000 to spend to finally find themselves that Cornish forever home. They would like 2 to 3 bedrooms, a couple of reception areas, a conservatory or room to build one, and a pretty garden. And Rosemary has a dream of a 5-barred gate at the end of a private drive. We've got 3 wonderful properties to tempt them with, and at each one I'll be challenging them to guess the price before I reveal it. Our last option will be our mystery house, which could really offer a fresh outlook on their search. But first to see is house number 1.
As a service wife, as it were, Rosemary, you know, having been dragged around various military establishments, the chance to finally find a home that you can really make a home very definitely must be very exciting.
I am excited about it because wherever we've been, I mean, even the house we're in now, it's never to me been a real home because we've always had the dream that we will find the real home. So I am ready to find that final home. Yeah.
So this is the final frontier?
Yes.
Bill and Rosemary are seeking solitude, and our first property is rurally located about 3 miles from the town of St Austell and around a mile from the village of Sticker. A former mining village, facilities at Sticker include a Grade 2 listed inn and post office and stores. Under a mile away, but a far cry from estate living, our first offering nestles near paddocks, and we're starting our tour at the rear side of the house.
That's property number 1. What do you think?
It's very traditional, it's very pretty.
I love the stone walls on the outside.
This, to me, is a classic bit of Cornish architecture. So you don't get many of these in Bracknell, do you?
That's true.
Is this the sort of thing you've been dreaming about?
It is, yes, it is. And they had the 5-bar gate.
Well, first impressions, you've set the bar very high.
Should we have a look inside?
We will, yes.
Yes, please.
Originally built in the 1830s, This was once 3 granite stone farm workers' cottages, now extended and converted into a sizable single home. The porch-covered stable door opens onto a characterful country reception room.
Look what we've got for you.
Goodness gracious. It's the traditional, old, original fireplace. It's not something that's been added on in a new build property.
No,
Great.
that is the real deal, and that has kept generations of people warm.
I like the welcoming feeling of walking into that fireplace.
And it's just got so many original, old, traditional features. Everything, it's just great.
Well, if you like old and traditional, you're going to love the kitchen.
Okay.
I was very heartened when you said that you didn't want a massive kitchen diner. It's not small. You do have a dining end. You've got a classic oil-fired range there, of course. On a really hot day, you can turn that off and use the gas top there. You've got another oven. It all flows rather nicely into your main living dining area. Bill's got to duck a bit.
I'm sure I'll learn quickly.
I think you would, yeah, absolutely.
It's really traditional. This is something that's always been in picture books, in storybooks, and it's something I've always really wanted to try and get back to. A place in the country, wide walls, apples on the counter, everything about it is just great.
It couldn't be anything other than a country property.
So we're liking this, aren't we?
We are, yes.
Let's continue our tour then. Follow me.
A small flight of stairs leads down to an inner hallway, passing a lower ground floor shower room and onto a second reception area.
This, I think, makes the ideal craft room.
It's great. Got a lot of light.
We might be competing for this space.
No.
Above us is one of the 3 bedrooms, accessed by a separate staircase there. So you could have either this as a sort of guest end,
Yes.
or, you know, you could have a den up there.
You could do the ironing up there.
I'm taking the domestic banter as a positive sign that Bill and Rosemary are already imagining themselves living here. The second staircase on the ground floor leads to the remainder of the sleeping quarters. Above the kitchen, a small double bedroom is currently used as a study, next to which is a family bathroom with a clawfoot bath. And opposite, sitting over the first reception room and overlooking the south-facing garden, is the largest of the bedrooms.
It's not short of space.
It's probably the biggest room in the house. You could happily put a sofa in here and create a suite, as it were.
It's definitely got possibilities, isn't it?
It certainly has the right feel about it. It certainly is drawing me into life in the country.
There you go. There you go. Look, you see, Rosemary, your plan is working.
Yeah.
Well, there is one final bit we need to talk about, of course, and that is the price. Let's go out to the garden and see what you think it's worth.
Okay.
Right. After you.
Well, let's see if Rosemary's plan to entice Bill to the southwest is given a further boost outside, where private and enclosed grounds include paved seating areas, lawn, mature borders, and some versatile outbuildings.
This is country living.
Absolutely. Hook, line and sinker. And chickens and ducks as well, thrown into the mix. But what do you think property number 1 is on the market for, Rosemary?
I'll hazard a guess at 410.
410. OK, Bill?
I think it's slightly higher than that. I reckon it's on for 425.
We are going to have to top those numbers up a bit. This is currently on the market for £450,000.
Okay.
Go and explore it, soak up that atmosphere, and I will catch up with you a little bit later on.
Thank you.
Off you go.
With an asking price at the very top of their budget, this detached period property has the 2 reception areas needed and 1 more bedroom than Bill and Rosemary have asked for. And there's an enclosed garden surrounded by countryside.
Again, another good-sized room.
Yes.
Yeah, and dual aspects as well. An area to escape, to watch watch my sport,
You can have
etc.
your television up here.
Yes, I could.
This house has really inspired me. It's beautiful, it's solid, it's got lovely thick walls, just the right number of bedrooms. It's got something special about it, and I think this could be ours quite easily.
It had an enveloping nature about it. I like the fact that I felt as if the home was cradling me, was cuddling me. I like this house a lot.
really good start.
Good. Well, I'm going to tear you away because we have got 2 more to see. What will this afternoon offer you, I wonder?
Who knows?
Off you go. Come on. Might even treat you to lunch.
Ooh.
Despite its beauty, the landscape of Cornwall, with its free-draining loam soils and granite uplands, can be a challenge for agriculture and horticulture. As Rosemary is keen to get gardening, we've lined up an outing to show that the quirks of the county can be turned into an advantage. Sam Lindo's parents set out as sheep farmers on a notoriously tricky holding a couple of miles west of Bodmin. But after another tough year, they decided to swap from pasture to vineyards.
It was a really hot year and it was really difficult to grow grass, and I think my parents thought, well, rather than break even farming sheep, we'll break even farming something interesting. We first planted vines in 1989. It's one of the worst farms in the area for farming sheep, and it turns out it's a good site for vines. This part of Cornwall, we're the furthest away from the sea, so we get the lowest rainfall and the warmest temperature, and probably it's the most perfect place in Cornwall you could grow grapes.
The farm's south-facing slope and natural drainage promotes the grape ripening process, whilst the Cornish climate creates a fruit that's relatively acidic compared to its continental cousins. And that's ideal when it comes to sparkling wines.
You can taste that grape there. So you can see you've got the acidity there. That's what we really need for the sparkling.
I was expecting it to be slightly more bitter, but no, there's
Oh, no,
an
actually,
awful lot of flavour there.
It's a funny one. It being in a cooler climate, you get much less bitterness. We're not trying to make our wine like French wine. We have a different climate, and the grapes have a different character. And actually, the wine tastes the way it does because it's grown in England.
But one thing this Cornish vineyard does have in common with Champagne is the use of méthode traditionnelle, which is done here on site. The process involves a second fermentation, started around June, when yeast is added to a tank of wine, then put in bottles and capped, allowing carbon dioxide to build up to 6 bars of pressure, giving the drink its fizz.
It takes about 8 weeks for it to ferment. Once it's finished fermenting, we leave it in this room for the wine to mature for between 1 year and 2 years. Then we remove the yeast, and you can just see the yeast that sits in the bottom of the bottle.
Getting the yeast out of the bottles without removing the wine requires a technological sleight of hand. Rotated in giant crates for a week until the sediment settles in the neck, a special machine then removes the cap at a precise angle.
So it's just when the air bubble forms a V, so the yeast will shoot out and the wine will stay in there.
It's a process called disgorgement. A small amount of very sweet wine is then added to balance the flavours before the bottles are restocked with cork, turned, washed, and loaded in a crate ready for labelling. And, of course, drinking.
There are the bubbles.
Have a
Thank you
taste.
very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
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 That's incredibly fresh.
Very nice.
You can see the bubbles are really small. You want small bubbles, and that comes for us from the protein from the grapes growing on the vines for a lot longer, whereas in Champagne it comes from leaving it with the yeast for longer. And you couldn't make this anywhere else in the world. I suppose you didn't appreciate how much goes into winemaking
Not
before.
quite all the science that was involved in it, no.
Good luck in your property search, and I hope we see you again here soon.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second house on our tour is situated in the hamlet of Menadew, under a mile from the village of Bugle and 5 miles northeast of St Austell. Located on the coast, St Austell is one of the largest towns in the county. There's been a Christian building of worship on the site of Holy Trinity since at least the 12th century, although the current church is 15th century with niched sculptural groups including the 12 Apostles on all 4 sides of the impressive bell tower. The nearby village of Bugle has a pub and post office, with house number 2 just a 5-minute drive away, accessed by something which promises to please Rosemary.
Come on in. There.
Wow, that's a wow.
Goodness
That's
gracious
beautiful.
Now, this is an interesting proposition. It is at the end of its own drive
Yeah, with
with its
5
own 5-bar gate.
With a view.
Yeah, you've got views all over the place.
I'm gobsmacked. I am stunned. I just want the numbers to be right.
Ah, well, we'll get to the numbers later on. Don't you worry about the price now. Rosemary's, I think, already moved in, haven't you?
I have.
Yes, come on, let's see what you think of the inside.
Well, Bill's talking money before we've even stepped inside this rather handsome late Victorian detached property. Formerly a dairy, it's been renovated from tip to toe by the current owners over the last 3 years. We're entering via the elegant central hallway.
Well, I think we'll start with the living room.
Oh, that's lovely. That is lovely.
It's very, very, very well laid out. It's stunning.
They've retained this fireplace.
It's beautiful and really well finished. Everything is so well finished.
I love
It's
the
lovely.
amount of light that is flooding in.
Yes, it's a lovely light room.
And you've got these lovely high ceilings. That's the joy of this sort of period, this sort of build.
I'm also loving the silence, the solitude. It's very, very peaceful.
On the other side of the hall is a large, well-appointed kitchen diner.
Now then.
Oh, my goodness.
The space is fantastic.
Yeah? Wood burner in there, which is lovely. That door over there leads back into the living room.
Yes.
Okay. The other door goes out to a boot room and downstairs loo. Utility room through there.
Right.
Well, it's got everything, hasn't it?
And, of course,
Wow.
next to the room is this huge conservatory.
It looks like a sun trap.
It's just absolutely fabulous.
And I love the way that the steps from the conservatory
Come down.
lead so well into the garden.
Yeah. I really get the sense, Rosemary, that this one is stirring those emotions a little bit.
Just a touch.
Are you all right? Do you need a minute?
No, I'm fine. I'm
Good.
fine. I'm
OK.
fine.
Well, look, let's get upstairs and have a look at what that offers you. I know you only asked for 2, possibly 3 bedrooms. This one has 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness. Goodness.
Come and have a look.
To the front of the property is the first of the double bedrooms with a feature fireplace. Next to this, a smaller bedroom is being used as a study. And to the back of the house, another double room and the family bathroom with separate fixed head shower and roll-top bath, which just leaves the master.
And then finally, this we think would be yours. It does have the addition of a little shower en suite.
Oh, and the view.
Yeah. Not
Could lie in
forgetting
bed
the
all
view.
day. Look at the view. You have surpassed yourself.
Ah, well, you know, and we haven't finished yet, but so far so good today.
This is impressive. The overtime I'm going to have to do now.
Yeah. You want him to move, not keep working. Come on, let's take a trip to the garden
Yeah.
and we'll talk about the price, shall we?
Okay.
Thank you.
With gardens surrounding the property on all sides and that gated driveway, there's even more reason to get Bill worrying about affordability. The paved patio overlooks well-stocked beds and a selection of outbuildings, including a really useful garage, only adds to the potential here.
So I think from this position you get a nice aspect of the front of the property. There's some lovely views as well from the end of the garden over that wall. The whole package has this feeling of rather splendid isolation, but actually we're only 5 miles from popular spots that are around here.
Everything about it is exactly what we've asked for and more.
But what do we think property number 2 is worth?
Well, I don't think that the money that we brought out here will be enough for this property. I think it's an asking price of £475,000.
475, yeah? Rosemary?
I would say between 460, 470.
It's very interesting. Price guesses reveal quite a lot about how much buyers want a property. I'm afraid it's not 475 and it's not 460.
It's 5 something.
There is a 5 in it. It's 395.
No.
My goodness. My goodness. My goodness. Goodness gracious
Forget
me.
the mystery house. I couldn't have dreamed of a better house.
But for you, this move is quite a big number.
Yeah.
Giving up working in London early. Would you give it up sooner rather than later to move here?
With no hesitation at all.
I think you need some time alone. Off you go. And I will find you a little bit later on.
Wow.
£55,000 below budget, this late Victorian former dairy has everything Bill and Rosemary have ever dreamed of. With a large living room and spacious sunny conservatory, Plus 4 bedrooms, including an ensuite, there's more than enough space for their sons to visit. The secluded grounds provide a private idyll. And of course, there's that gate at the end of their own gravel drive.
It's a fantastic property. It's a wow factor. Not within my wildest dreams would I have imagined that we would be looking at a property like this. To walk into the kitchen and see the jewel in the crown, which was the conservatory, it's phenomenal.
It's exactly the sort of thing that we were looking for. 4 bedrooms as well. I just can't believe that this house is so ideal for us. I feel as if it's mine already, but I don't sort of hope yet. I don't think this is a house that we can let escape from us.
Have we done it?
Very much so. Very much so.
Well, you need to sleep on it, but at this point in the day, I normally suggest we go and find somewhere to have a drink. Traditionally, I'm a real ale man, but I think today, maybe, a bit of champers?
I think we might be
so.
popping a cork.
Come on.
I think we need to.
Bill and Rosemary from Bracknell in Berkshire have £450,000 to achieve their lifelong goal of a move to Cornwall. Our first day of house hunting was so successful, they're convinced we need look no further. But when they see our mystery house, there could well be a change of view.
There you go.
OK.
Wow, I'm impressed with that.
And I visit a Cornish Tudor property that's been rewriting the history books.
Effectively, it's a fake.
Yes, it is a very sort of cleverly done fake.
Well, to say that yesterday finished on a high would be a classic understatement. And whilst we did allow Bill and Rosemary a minor celebration last night, I have ignored her assertion that we need look no further, because as you can see, we are still here for our final day of house hunting in Cornwall. And let's be honest, any tour of properties in this part of the world would not be the same without showing them something that made the very best of that. Now then, who slept well?
Me.
Yeah! Was that because you thought the race was over, Rosemary?
I don't know. I was just emotionally exhausted, I think.
Well, I'm a bit concerned now that we might put a spanner in the works with our mystery house, having got you this far, so close to buying something that maybe our final offering may make you think again. Who knows? What do you think it might be, Bill?
We haven't seen anything with a sea view yet, so I wonder if that will be the thing that will test our resolve, test our desires.
Ah. Let's see what you think of our mystery house, shall we?
The mystery house is situated in the coastal village of Holywell, a 6-mile drive southwest from Newquay and a 1.5 miles northwest of the village of Cubert. Once known as St Cubert after a Welsh missionary, Cubert offers fish and chips, a bakery selling homemade Cornish pasties, and a post office and stores. A 2-minute drive away, Holywell's shop also sells groceries and seaside goods. There's also a 13th century thatched inn, rumoured to be haunted by several ghosts, and it's located just a minute's walk from our final proposition.
OK, here we are then, our mystery house. In truth, this isn't the best way to really begin to appreciate this property, because its location means that its charm is all predicated on what's beyond it.
Yes. I'll be interested to see the other side.
It's well worth a look, but to do so, we need to get through that door and soak up the views beyond. Come on.
I'm keen to get Rosemary and Bill inside this detached 1930s build with its later additions, as it's really only after passing through the entrance hall and into the living room at the rear of the property that the reason I've brought them here reveals itself.
There you go.
OK.
That is what it's all about. A magnificent view over Holywell Bay and the ocean beyond.
Wow.
That's lovely.
I'm impressed with that.
This is your main living room. That enormous picture window.
I love the amount of light that's flooding
it's
into
a lovely
the room.
big window.
Yeah.
But it still has to compete with the second one.
And for me, it's not doing that right now, even with that view.
Maybe we spoiled you. But let's spoil you with more views. Come on.
Turning right out of the living room, we're heading into the kitchen diner, which features the first of the 2 conservatory spaces on offer.
Now, once again, The views are front and centre of the way this room has been put together.
Well, that is a view.
So it's something of a kitchen, diner, living room, oil-fired range, the island here with the sink, of course, utility space around the back there as well.
Yes, it's lovely. It's a very exciting property.
It's an impressive view. It very much is.
That's what you're going to be gazing at most of the day, I would think.
The entrance does conceal the hidden treasure.
You really are reminded, I think, 24 hours a day that you are living in Cornwall.
Yes.
On the coast.
It's not bad to wake up to that view, is it?
Talking of waking up, let's get upstairs because the views get even better.
Perhaps this mystery house is starting to offer some stiff competition for Bill and Rosemary's affections. On the ground floor, running alongside the kitchen, there's also a study. And on the coastal frontage, an additional conservatory really maximises this property's stunning aspect. It also offers something of a potting shed for keen gardener Rosemary, plus a ground floor double bedroom and a separate shower room. Meanwhile, up in the converted loft space, it's all about the master ensuite.
There we go. Again.
Yes.
It's a wonderful view.
Well, you talked about waking up to the view. This is where it would happen,
Absolutely.
Bill, if you went for it. You've also got a bath ensuite through there. Plenty of storage, as you can see.
That's a good use of space.
You don't feel cramped in here.
You would feel as if you were on holiday, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make a change from working in London?
It certainly would.
It certainly would. I'm pleased to show it to you because I think it sort of completes the set.
Yes.
All very strong properties, but of course the price of each of them is one of the guiding factors.
It is, yes.
You can keep thinking about it while we pop down to the garden.
I sense this property really does have something to put the cat among the pigeons. Outside, as well as a driveway with parking for a couple of cars, there are 2 detached garages. But once again, it's the coastal side of our mystery house, featuring a decked seating area and panoramic sea views that really is something special. Steps lead down to the enclosed landscape garden, combining lawn and well-stocked beds.
Look at that. I mean, it's just mesmerising, isn't it? I think rather interesting, certainly very well positioned mystery house. It's rather surreal with these great big sand dunes here. It's captivating.
The veranda itself does lend itself to want to spend some time out here.
Well, is this the sort of property that you could see yourself living in?
For the right price, I would certainly want to live in this property, Jules, yes.
OK, off you go then. Give me your final estimate of the week on our mystery house.
Well, I think that because of the sea views, I think this property would be on the market for £460,000.
Yeah, Bill?
For a change, actually, I think it's below budget. I think it will be £380,000.
Is that just wishful thinking and hopeful optimism?
It may very well be, yeah.
Because I'm afraid your wife is much closer to it. This is on for offers in excess of £450,000.
OK.
So well done you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
This is a truly exceptional property
Yeah.
and a real treat to see. So have a wander around. I will catch up with you a little bit later on.
OK, thank you.
And while you take your time, I think I'll spend my time taking in the views.
Right at the top of Bill and Rosemary's budget, this detached 1930s 2-bedroom coastal home offers all the accommodation they're after. There's a large living room and kitchen with conservatory dining space, and it's all in a plot with amazing sea views.
It's impressive that they're growing their own wines.
Yeah. It's a real sun trap.
It is, yeah. The big bonus, the big selling point is definitely the fantastic views of the sea. The rooms themselves have fantastic amount of light, and I did like that. It's a very, very fresh feeling to it. It has an awful lot of pluses to it.
It's got a lovely situation. It's overlooking the bay. You could be on holiday all year round in this house. It has a lot to offer us. It's certainly a contender in our search.
You know, there are days when this doesn't feel like a job.
Hello, Jules.
How are you?
I think we've seen enough of this wonderful property, thank you.
Happy, Bill?
Yes, I think it's time for us to go and have some serious thoughts.
I think so, and some serious discussion too. Right then, after you, mate. Lead on.
These days, visiting a stately home or any other historic building is, of course, a popular pastime, but a couple of centuries ago, it was much more of a curiosity. One family who blazed the trail for historic house tours were the Edgcombes. Having long since moved out of their Tudor residence in the Tamar Valley, they went all out in the 18th century to reinvent the place as an ancestral showcase. Coteale House is now in the hands of the National Trust. Collections manager Rachel Hunt has lots to tell of the place and its colourful former owners.
Rachel, good morning. Very nice to see you.
Nice to meet you, Jules.
It's rather nice to think that you'd have a spare Tudor house just lying around in which you could put, you know, the family's bits and pieces, and then somehow have the idea that you could open it to the public, that people would be interested enough back then to come and wander around.
I mean, of course, in those days, it was distinguished guests that were invited to come up and see Coteale, and our visitors today see the same things pretty much. It's a very similar experience. Distinguished guests would be taken around the house and pointed out things of interest and told about the Edgecombe's ancestors. There'd be no money changing hands. It was really about sort of status and kudos. They were trying to portray this image of timelessness.
In fact, the history the Edgecombes put on show
Wow.
owed more than a little to the art of storytelling.
Although all the fabric of the building in here is original, not all the objects are. This roundel dates back to the early 1500s, and a lot of other bits were carved to make up the chair, and the whole lot seamlessly covered in black paint to make it look as though it's of a piece. But actually, it probably dates back to the 1830s or possibly even a little bit later.
Effectively, it's a fake.
Yes, it is a very sort of cleverly done fake, and was for years thought to be a genuine Tudor artefact.
One gets the sense that they were producing an ancestral history for visitors to soak up.
Yes, that's very true. There's a sword there that's a complete composite. It's again a fake, but that was said to belong to the Black Prince, which is absolutely impossible because that would make it medieval, and even the earliest bits are sort of a couple of hundred years later.
The tales told by the Edgecombes may best be digested with a sceptical pinch of salt, but preserving the bones of this house is very much a real-life concern.
Well, this all looks pretty serious, Rachel. What are you doing?
This scaffolding is to enable us to carry out some essential repairs at roof level and some repointing. There are some lead repairs required up on the roof, and some of the parapets were seemingly a little bit unstable. And it's essential. Building this old does need constant maintenance.
But it's not all about restoration. The Trust also carries out research to uncover more on the buildings in its care. And the latest project here takes a new approach.
For the first time, we've commissioned a lichen survey of what's growing on the walls of the building, just so that we know what we've got.
I've come across many different types of surveys on different buildings before, but never a lichen survey.
Lichenologist Vince Giovanni is overseeing the survey, which aims to reveal the biodiversity present on the building, as well as something of its history.
They form these sort of constellations, and the deeper you look into the rock, you can almost go back through the centuries. It's important to see if we can find anything that's maybe threatened. So when they do conservation work like that, we can avoid damaging any of those species.
I mean, presumably it can also give you a date upon which the stone was put in, or indeed most recently cleaned.
Lichenometry is actually the dating of the lichen crusts. So it tells us quite a lot. We can age buildings.
And what do you think you've learned from this particular survey, Vince?
This building has quite a high biodiversity. It has about 120 to 150 species. My advice would always be, don't ever try to remove the lichen. Remember, the lichen is forming an outer protective layer rather than kind of causing any biodeterioration.
The news that there is so much life on one building may sound even more implausible than the tall tales once embroidered here. But these ancient residents may even be helping to look after the walls they grow on.
Look at that. A Cornish beach bathed in sunshine. On a day like today, it's easy to forget that we're not on holiday, but we are, of course, engaged in the very serious business of house hunting, as Bill and Rosemary know only too well. They, I'm assured, are down there making sense of all that we've shown them this week. So the burning question, as ever, of course, is what happens next? Look at you two, living the dream. Wow, look at this. We really have spoilt you this week. Is that for me?
It is, yes.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
I'm delighted that trip to the vineyard didn't leave you empty-handed.
No.
Well, look, I will look forward to drinking your good health in due course, but not before we found out about your future plans. I think there is clearly still one winner.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we would like to go back and see number 2 with the owners and have a chat with them and put in an offer.
Wow. I mean, your reaction to property 2 was just beautiful, Rosemary. Clearly, number 2 has maintained its position at the top of your list.
Very much so. Number 2 offered us everything and more of what we wanted. It provides for us a family home.
I think we can put down roots there, that's the thing, and we can make it into a home.
I'll let you into a little secret. I thought you were going to cry when I told you the price.
Well, I was inside, but I didn't want to do that on camera.
I think with property 2, I have completed my mission, which was to bring Rosemary home and to provide the ideal family home for our whole family.
Oh, I'm welling up myself. Well, guys, it's been an awful lot of fun. We look forward to hearing, I hope, that your purchase of property 2 has been successful. So in the meantime, here's to you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, whether it's the stories that surround Tintagel and King Arthur, or indeed the dark and brooding romance of Poldark, for centuries, writers and artists have rightly celebrated Cornwall as a land of myth and legend, but I don't think there's much that's fictional about this week's tale of Bill and Rosemary's ambition to finally realise their hopes of a life in the Cornish countryside. And let's face it, with beaches like this on your doorstep, who could blame them? I'll see you next time.
Bill and Rosemary returned to house number 2 the very next morning and put in an offer that was accepted. We wish them every success with their Cornish future. If you would like to escape to the country in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland or England and need our help, then please apply online at bbc.co.uk/Be On A Show.
Now, back in the 1700s, the family that once lived in this magnificent Tudor manor house, but had long since moved out, decided to give it a new lease of life and reinvent it as their ancestral show home. But who were they and where are we? Well, join me in just a moment and I'll tell you.
Today's property search has fairy tale beginnings.
Goodness gracious. This is something that's always been in picture books, in storybooks.
But will we find our home hunters a happy ever after?
No.
My goodness. My goodness.
Well, today we are in Cornwall, and this is Cotehill House, just a stone's throw from the River Tamar. The original Tudor mansion was built by a family called the Edgcombes. However, by the 1550s, they moved out, having built a new family home just down the road. But fast forward 2 centuries, and the Edgcombes began to exploit the growing romantic appeal of this place. And it attracted some pretty high-profile visitors, amongst them George III and his wife, Queen Charlotte. Since 1947, it's been in the care of the National Trust. Later on in the show, I'll be back here learning more about the Cotehill story, also understanding how they maintain not just the architecture, but also its rather magical atmosphere. Now, when it comes to property here in Cornwall, no surprise that the coast is king. Hotspots like Rock, Foy and Padstow can see properties running into the millions, but for all that, the average price of a detached home here is surprisingly affordable at £274,000. That's £13,000 below the national average figure. But what about today's buyers? What's attracted them to a life in Cornwall? Well, let's meet them and find out.
Today's house hunters, Bill and Rosemary, have been married 27 years, and their paths first crossed in the late 80s on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
1987, I had this fabulous teaching post on Ascension Island, and I joined the Amateur Dramatic Society, and Bill turned up at a rehearsal. Brown legs, white shorts.
Yeah, very short shorts. Rosemary was attracted to my brown hairy legs.
Along came marriage and children, as well as decades of moving from pillar to post due to Bill's job with the RAF.
Sometimes we were 2 or 3 years in a place, but other times we moved 3 times in a year. I never really felt that we had a proper home.
Finally, Bill's military career came to an end, and he got a new job with the Metropolitan Police. The couple have settled on an estate in the commuter town of Bracknell, Berkshire, but both still yearn for greener pastures elsewhere.
The rush hour times, in the mornings it's all going on its way out to London, and in the evenings everything is returning from London.
When you look out, it's rooftops everywhere.
And everywhere is overlooking everywhere.
Yeah.
We're looking for a bit of solitude rather than there's another set of screaming children.
We're beyond estate living. We just want a little bit of peace and quiet, own boundaries, and my wish is for a 5-bar gate at the end of a drive.
To find that solitude and serenity, Rosemary, who was born and raised in the southwest, feels there's only one place she could ever truly call home.
My grandparents were from Cornwall. I just love the moorland, I love mossy stones, I love dry stone walls. To me, that is home, and that's where I grew up, and that's where I want to be.
I think we always realised that Cornwall has been the goal.
Whilst Rosemary is ready to make the move now, at a decade her junior, 54-year-old Bill is a few years away from retirement. The plan is for Rosemary to move full-time and Bill to join her on his days off between shifts until he can